It's not the Hill of the Gemara. So we'll go a little bit back to the two dots on the first wide line. Tanya, Omer of Shimon, Omer Yeshua. Are both dvorim, four things, if someone who does them, potter midin adam, you're potter midin adam, v'chai midin shemayim. The ve'elohein, hapoyer together, if neib hemes chavera, and then your friend's animal went into damage. V'akoyv of kamasa shal chavera b'fnei dleika. Someone bends the tfua was still growing, and there was a fire coming to that field, and he bent the tfua over so that it should be in the path of the fire. Someone who hires false edus, and the Gemara will get into the specifics. And someone who knows edus that would be helpful to his friend, and he doesn't say the edus. And because of that, his friend loses money. Let's drill down on these cases. What exactly happened? If we're talking about a perfectly good wall that was there, that you broke, you should be chayiv b'dinei adam. And what Rashi says is, maybe there won't be a chiyuv for him to pay if the animal is damaged, but he broke down someone's wall. So how could the Brisa use a word of pater b'dinei adam? There will definitely be a chiyuv b'dinei adam for knocking down someone's perfectly good wall. Ella, when I must be speaking about a kosel ru'ula, if it's a weak wall, so that this wall is coming down anyway, so therefore, if anything, I helped him because I took down the wall that he would have otherwise had to pay to get taken down. So therefore, there's no damage to him as far as the wall is concerned, but he definitely caused that the animal should go do damage. Okay. Zogt the Gemara about the next case. What happened? Hechidami. Ilema the motile beruch mitzuya. If once I bend over his tefua, then even a ruach mitzuya will make it that the fire should ignite this kama. Well, then bedini adam nami nechayiv. He should also be chayiv bedini adam. And Rashi explains because harei biyadayim hivir. That's literally lighting something on fire. And Tosha says that there's no difference between bringing a fire to something or bringing something into the fire. Either way, there's going to be a chiyuv. So therefore, what does it mean you're potter b'dinei adam? Zok Gemara eladamati beruch she'ena mitzuya. When you bend it over, it's going to cause that if a ruach she'ena mitzuya comes, then it's going to get caught on fire. So there we say you're potter b'dinei adam, but you're chayiv b'dinei shemayim, because the midi, as Rashi says, the midi l'sal kadaitei. It's something that you can't assume is going to happen. Rav Ashi has a very interesting twist on it. Talmud Itmar, the halacha is that if a fire burns someone's thing, but the thing that it burned was concealed, was covered, then the person responsible for the fire does not have to pay for those damages. So he had a friend's item that was definitely going to get caught on fire. And the friends would have been able to retrieve his money from the person responsible for the fire. And what this guy did is he covered it over, rendering it tamun, and now when it gets burnt up, the person responsible for the fire will no longer have to pay. So now he's causing the nizik damage because of him, the nizik now will not be able to get paid. So Zoktamur Ravashi Omer Tamun Itmar, Mishum Deshavia Tamun Beich. You made his produce tamun, even though it was not tamun. So although it would have been burnt, he had recourse to go back to the person responsible for the fire, and you took away that recourse. Okay, the Valtin. Zoktamur Omer Mar. Asoicher Ede Sheker. What exactly is the case of Soicher Ede Sheker? Ilemel Nafshe. So Reuven wants to steal $1,000 from Shimon. So Reuven hires two Edom to say that Shimon borrowed $1,000 from him, and now you have to pay me back. Those were the Edom that he hired. Zok to Gemara, it can't be, because there, if it's found, if it's found after he forces Shimon to pay him $1,000 because of the false item that he hired, if it's found that those items were false, naturally Reuben is going to have to return that money that he got from Shimon. So that's even with the Adam he'll be chayiv. Why are you saying there's only a chiyuv to pay the Shemayim? What he did is he hired false Adam on behalf of Reuven to force Shimon to pay Reuven, but he's Levi, he's a third party. So he didn't put any money into his pocket. He didn't pocket any money. He's not one of the Baladin over here. But he hired false Adam, and therefore he's mechuyev to pay. It has to be that he hired them, because if he just told them, he could say he'll even be pater b'dinei shemayim, because he could say you shouldn't have said false Adams. When I pay somebody, it gets him this liability to pay b'dinei shemayim. Okay, el chaver, it was to his chaver. Now let's look at the fourth example that the Brisa gave of pater b'dinei adam and chaver b'dinei shemayim. That's why they edus l'chaver b'nei meil. You knew an edus and you didn't say the edus. If he hired two Eidim, Pshita, of course, he's going to be chayiv. I'm sorry, if he is one of two Eidim. He was withholding testimony, but he had someone to say testimony with him. So if he had two people, him and somebody else, so there would be a set of two Eidim. Pshita, deraisa, is an issue deraisa. It says, so if it's an aver that he's doing, avada, he's chayiv b'dinei shemayim. So we're not saying that's a reason why he should pay, but it's pshita that he's chayiv b'dinei shemayim because he's over alav. Zok to Gemara, elo b'chad. Maybe he was the only aid. There was no other aid with him, so he could not have extracted payment from Shimon. So he didn't hurt Reuven, because anyway an aid echad can't make somebody pay. Zok Rashi, elo b'chad. So all you were mechayiv Shimon is to swear, because if one aid says testimony that you owe money, then you could swear to contradict the aid, and then you don't have to pay. Zot Rashu v'dinei shemayim mechayiv. You only chayiv v'dinei shemayim. The avamasid mechayiv le'shvua, because even if I would have said edus, I would have only been mechayiv me'shvua. V'dim alav mishtabah b'shikra u'mishalach, and maybe the nitfa wouldn't have wanted to swear. The male denied that he owes money, but to swear that he wouldn't do. So you're an indirect cause that Reuben lost money, because had you said your edus, Shimon would have had to swear, and likely he would have not have sworn. Likely he would not have sworn, and then Reuben would have gotten his money. And since you didn't want to say edus to help Reuben, you're chayiv b'dinei shemayim. Are these the only four cases that you could think of where there's a grama, and because of that, the person's only chayiv b'dinei shemayim, not b'dinei adam? There's many more cases that have the same halacha. Why didn't the Brisa list those? Ha'oisem halacha b'mei chatos. The halacha is that when you take water from the spring to prepare for the paraduma, or ubeparas chatas, a paraduma before it's shechted, you're not allowed to do any malacha with it, and you did malacha with either A or B, which rendered it pasul, pater b'dinei adam, chayiv b'dinei shemayim. So that's example of pater b'dinei adam and chayiv b'dinei shemayim. Rashi says, why is it pater b'dinei adam? Because it's a hezek sheni nikar. If it's just a halachically status change, but there was nothing physically changed in the physical properties of what you damaged, there's no chiyuv b'dei adam, but there is a chiyuv b'dei shemayim. So why isn't that one of the items on our list? But we have another example of such halacha. What if you put poison in front of your friend's animal? The halacha is there as well, and the animal eats it. So you cause the animal to die, but you didn't kill the animal with dying. But we have another example of such a halacha. If you give a fire to a cheresh shoyta b'katan, so you're putting them in a position, you're causing that fire should happen. The halacha is pater b'dinei adam chayv b'dinei shemayim. V'ika, we have another example that gives us the same halacha, and that is hamavis es chaverei. Rashi says he screams very loud in his ear, and that causes a problem. But he didn't touch the fellow. There was no one bit of physical contact. Nevertheless, it's potem in the other mechayev in shemayim. But equally another case, nishbra kadeh b'shus harabim v'loy solka. You dropped your kadeh b'shus harabim and you didn't clean up the pieces, or nafla gamli, your camel fell below hamita and you didn't stand it up. You were negligent because within a certain period of time you should have cleaned it up and you didn't. And we have a machlekes tanaim about it. Meir mechayev behezekon, Meir al zischayev, but v'chachamim ma'imrim poter medina adam v'chayev medina shemayim. So we have so many additional examples of the same halacha. Vasep the Brisa says there's only 4 cases. Zekmar in Mia Ikatuva. You're right. There are many other examples where you will be poter b'nei adam and chayav b'nei shemayim. But there's 4 cases, the cases the Brisa lists, that have a special chiddush because there would have been a good argument to paskin not like the Brisa. Hani strichale. Why? Mao the tema b'nei shemayim nami loy mechayev. There's a good argument into all of the 4 cases listed in the Brisa that there shouldn't even be a chiyuv b'dinei shemayim. Kamash malon, that you're chayiv b'dinei shemayim. So now the Gemara is going to go through the 4 cases one by one to illustrate why there would have been a good argument to say that there shouldn't even be a chiyuv b'dinei shemayim. Haparitz kedem b'fnei v'hemes chaver. Ma'odatem, you would say, given the lemister ekoi, this wall. Remember, we said it's speaking by a kosher ru'uya. Since it's going to be knocked down anyway, if anything, he did the guy a favor. Ma'ovid. What did he do wrong? He took down a wall that was really dangerous that had to be taken down anyway. So why should he be chayiv? So the Gemara, Ma'ovid b'dishayim nami lo chayiv. Kamash malon, that you're chayiv anyway, because even though the wall had to come down, you didn't need to get involved, and now you caused indirectly that this animal did damage. Okay, what about the second case? Nami. Mal tema, he could say, Lema mi yudana the asi ruach she'eni mitzuya uvadini shemaim nami lemechai. He could say, I had no idea that a ruach she'eni mitzuya was going to come, so I just covered it maybe to somewhat to do a favor, to maybe protect him. That's why I did it. So why should you blame me? I had no idea that a ruach she'eni mitzuya was going to come, and therefore, uvidina shemaim nami l'chayev kamash malon. That's why the Brisa had to list that case. But now we had 2 pshatim in that case. We had one pshat is that you put the tefillah of your friend in harm's way. The other pshat was that you covered it over, and you caused that. Now your friend won't be able to mon payment from the person responsible for the fire. So the Rabashi, the Omar Nami Tamon Itmar, I can claim, why should I pay for your tefillah, even b'dei shemayim, mal detema anak yisuya kisisin halach. I did you a favor. I wanted to protect your tefillah from getting on fire. I didn't want to cause you problems, and therefore b'dei shemayim nami lo l'chayev kamash v'lo. So Tosfos says, what do you mean? B'dinei shemayim, Hashem knows what you were thinking. Hashem knows what you really had in mind. If you had in mind to cause that the damages should not be paid for, so what are you? You're going to tell Hashem, you're going to lie to Hashem that you tried to help him? Hashem reads your mind. So why is that an argument that you shouldn't be chayiv b'dinei shemayim? So Tosfos says no. Even if you earnestly and honestly were doing it for a good purpose, to protect your friend's produce, but at the end of the day you caused this damage indirectly, you're still chayiv. This is called the road to hell was paved with good intentions. You thought you're going to be an Eibuch Chacham and help him by covering it over, kamash malon, that since your action caused him damage, because now he's not going to be paid for his tefillah having been burnt, therefore you're chayiv b'dei shemayim. Okay, gewaltig. What about the edus halachas? Zog to Gemara v'ater v'asoicher edei sheker nami. When you hire a false edim to say that Shimon owes Reuven money, nami mal detema lema divrei rav v'divrei talmud divrei mishamin. Yes, I was going to pay him, but at the end of the day, ain't shlichus l'dvar why the shluchim, the false edim who I hired, should never have listened to me. So why should I be chayiv? And therefore, that if you pay them, you were too involved in helping them do the surveyor, and you're going to be chayiv b'din shemai. Nami. I have a reason to say why I shouldn't even be chayiv b'din shemai. Who said even if I would have said edus on behalf of Reuven that Shimon owes him money? Who said Shimon would not have wanted to swear and Shimon would have had to pay, and therefore I caused him a loss? Maybe Shimon would have sworn falsely. And even with my testimony, Reuven wouldn't have got his money from Shimon anyway. And therefore, I shouldn't even be chayiv b'dei shemaim, kamash malon. So yes, there's many cases where the halacha is part of b'din yadam chayiv b'dei shemaim, but the 4 cases mentioned in the brisa are a special chiddush because they'd be a good argument to make that there shouldn't even be a chayiv b'dei shemaim, kamash malon the brisa, that these cases as well, there is a chayiv b'dei shemaim. Zok the heilige Gemara weiter. Nifritza balayla asher patur listim. Our Mishnah said you did the shmira that you were supposed to do. It's not your fault that either listim broke them out of the cage, or that they broke through themselves. So therefore, you're going to be put. Zok Rabba, that's conditional. The only way we're going to say that you're potter is if the way they got out, the way the animals got out, is through a method that's not your fault. The animals dug a hole to get out from under the wall. But if they didn't have to dig out to get out, they just walked out. My chayiv? Does Rabbah mean to say that you're going to be chayiv if the animals didn't have to dig out? Rather, for instance, the wall fell down, as Rashi states. Are you going to tell me you made a shmira that's halachically a good shmira? Why would it depend on what happened at the end? Once you did your halachically good shmira, what's the difference if they dug out underneath the wall or if the wall fell down? You still built a good wall. If some fluke it fell down, why would we say that you're going to be chayiv? Zok to Gemara, Heichadam. What exactly is the case? If I put up a very good solid wall, let's say the wall ended up falling down, but I built a good wall. My chayiv. So even if the wall fell down, why should me, the owner of the wall, the owner of the animal, be chayiv? What could I have possibly done other than building a sound wall, a sound barrier? Ella, because we have to say that you're dealing with a weak wall. If it's a weak wall, even though the wall Lamashi didn't fall down and they escaped some other way, my potter, at the end of the day, you started doing an insufficient shmir because you didn't have a good wall. And the Seifa B'Oinus, yes, at the end of the day, they dug under the wall, and they could have done that no matter what type of wall you had, even the strongest of walls. But Lamaisa, what caused the damage was not your pshia. But halacha is, we might hold Tchilas B'Pshia, Seifa B'Oinus is chayiv. Hanichel Andamer Tchilas B'Pshia, Seifa B'Oinus potter. If you hold Tchilas B'Pshia, Seifa B'Oinus is potter, then it makes sense what Rabbi is saying. Because this would be a case of Tchilas B'Pshia, Seifa B'Oinus, and therefore you're potter. If it was Chasra, because it was Seifa B'Oinus. But if the wall fell down, you'd be chayiv. Elamanda Amar, Tchilas B'Pshia, Seifa B'Oinus chayiv. If you hold that if I didn't put up the wall properly, even if the animals grew wings and flew over the wall or dug under the wall, I'm still going to be chayiv because my shmira was lacking. My kilamemar, how do you understand Rabbi's halacha that b'chasra, if it was chasra, you're potter, but if it was loy chasra, you're chayiv? How can you explain it? Ella, we're going to have to say that masnisin is the koisel bari. The Mishnah is speaking with a good wall, meaning when I made a good wall, I'm potter because I did a proper shmira. And even if the wall ended up falling down, not someone just came, I'm still potter because I did whatever I could have done. As the Gemara says a moment ago, what could he have done? So what's Rabba's halacha? Where did Rabba say that there is a difference between if the animals got out through an onions by digging underneath the wall or walking out through a wall that collapsed? A seifa. That's relevant to the seifa of our Mishnah, where you put the animal into a proper, secure pen, but there was no shelter from the blazing sun. v'yatasa, and the animal escaped, v'zika the damage chayiv. There, Rabbi says, Amar Rabba, not v'husha chasra. Rabbi says v'afilu chasra. Even if the animals didn't, see, what would the normal outcome of animals that are very agitated because they're boiling in the sun? Their normal way to get out would be to bust open the wall. It's still not normal to dig under the wall. So Zog to Gemara, Vafilu Chasra, Lemi Boy Hechad Loy Chasra, Dukul Pshiyahu, forget about it in a case where they didn't dig under the wall, but the wall fell down. That's Mamish's Pshiyah, because he put them into a pen that they're going to have to get out of because they can't take to eat. So it's something that they should have been worried for. They're going to bust the wall down. So that's the Pshiyah that he made actually ended up happening. It ended up being the cause of the damage. Elafilu Chasra Nami, even if they dug under the wall, and therefore the Ma'al the Tema, this might be a case of because digging under the wall means that his wall was strong enough and something totally unexpected happened. So maybe you should be potter. Kamash Valon, that this is not a case of the chul the whole thing is a pshia. The fact that you put an animal into a place where it needs to get out because it's full of sun, that will make the animal creative in finding ways to get out, even doing something so unusual as digging under the wall. Therefore, my timer, the Amalei made the yad that you know. Even the Shavkasa B'chama, if you leave animals in the sun, they cannot take it. They're going to have to get out. Never called Tzedakah, the Istelamevet, any tactic that the animal can possibly employ to get out of this place, of the Vinafka. So normally, if an animal digs under the wall, we consider that an oinus, but not when you put them into a position where necessity is the biggest driver of what's the word for it? Necessity is the biggest driver of
necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of invention. You created a case of necessity for this animal, so you're responsible for any invention, anything that could have been considered an onus. You caused that to happen. If the listim took the animal, they're chayiv. Frank the Gemara Pshita. Why in the world shouldn't they be chayiv? They owned the animal now. They were koinit. So let me turn it over onto the base. Pshita, kivin dafkua, the moment they take the animal out, they own it, they're chayiv and as Rashi says, Ika Meshicha, there's Kinya Meshicha, the Shina Rishos, and now the animal transfers into the Rishos of the Ganovim to have a Kinya L'Chalmili. It's completely theirs. Why do you need a Mishnah to tell me that when a Ganav is koin an animal, he's chayiv for anything that comes from this animal because we treat it like it's his? Zok Gemara Loy Tricha, they didn't make a Kinya Meshicha. They never made a Kinya. What they did was the Kamula Bapa, they actually stood all around it and only left it one opening. So it was forced to leave in that opening. But they didn't actually make a Mashiach on the animal. As Rashi says, they stood all around it where it was not able to move only in one direction. Ella Lakama. The only place it was able to go is where this food was growing, and then the animal went to eat it. But they didn't actually bring the animal to the food, they just didn't let the animal go anywhere else. So Zakmal the Kamala Bapa, Kihad Amarabba Amarav, Amarabba Amarav Masna Amarav, Hamaimid Behemes Chaverai, Alkamus Chaverai Chai. If you drag a person's animal, pull up at a reins, and you take it right to the Kama of your friend, there you're going to be chayiv to pay even by the other. So to Gemara Pshita, isn't that pashit? You're literally damaging your friend. So to Gemara, no, the case is where you didn't physically pull the animal, be a diet, and make it eat the kama, but you didn't let it go in any other direction, and that caused it to go there. That's the case where it's chayiv, and that will be similar to the case in our Mishnah. Amalei Abayler of Yosef, Hikisha Amritla. You know what the case could have been? That you didn't take the animal by the reins and lead it to eat your friend's tefillah. Rather, you hit it. Hitting an animal and making it go is a form of Mashiach. Hekisa b'makal. Amrit lan ba'hi dehamayimit u'mishamachichai. You know why you were chayiv in the case of Maimid Chaveri is because the way you did it is because you hit it, right? Ulistim nami and listim as well. That could be the case as well. And Rashi says if that's the case, maybe it's teaching you that that's a method of kinyan mashicha. You don't only make the animal go into your rishus by dragging it. If you hit it from behind and that makes it move, that's also a valid kinyan mashicha, and maybe that is what the Mishnah is telling us over here. So in fact, you're chayiv because the guy that actually now owns this animal, because he was kanyat with mashicha, and the chiddush is that hikisha, hitting an animal, making it move, is a good form of a kinyan mashicha. Zok tehilga gemor vayter. Masra l'roya. So the way we learn to Mishnah Pashup Pshat is the owner of the animal gave his animal to a roya to take care of, and therefore nichnas haroya tachas habaylim, the roya is now considered the shomer, and if this animal damages anybody else, the roya now is responsible for the damages. So Zok the Gemara Amri Tachta of the Ma. It says nichnas haroya tachta. Whose place does the roya take? Ilema Tachta of the Baal Behema. If it's just telling you that the owner of the animal gives the animal to a roya, the roya becomes responsible. We've learned this in the Mishnah already. Where did we learn this in the Mishnah? We learned Masroi l'shomer chinam u'l'shoyel l'noisesachar u'l'seicher. We learned it about a week ago. Kulon nichnesu tachas abaylam. Any shomer that the baylam give an animal to now are responsible for any damages. So why does our Mishnah have to now repeat that same halacha by telling us Masroi l'roya? Zok Gemara, I'll tell you what the case is. The case is not where the Bailam gave it to a Raya. The Bailam gave it to a Shomer. And the Shomer then passed it on to a second Shomer. The Shomer passed it on to a Raya. And that is the question here. And the tacht of the Shomer. So the Mishnah is saying, if I'm a Shomer and I'm watching your animal, and I hire a Raya to continue the job, the Raya now becomes fully responsible. And I don't have any liability towards the Bailam. Zok Gemara, Elo tacht of the shomer. The shomer kama ifter leila gamri. And the shomer, the first shomer who was dealing directly with the bailam by subcontracting his shmira to a roya, he becomes totally potter. Freit the Gemara, lemet havet shuv to the Rava. This should be an obshlag to Rava's halacha, because this is literally a case of shomer shemashal shomer. The Amar Rava shomer shemashal shomer chayiv. Rava says that if you're a shomer and you give your responsibility over to a second shomer, you're automatically chayiv because you have violated the owner's trust in you. The owner can say, we had in the Gemara, either you can say, Ein ritzoni shehei pigdoni b'yad acher. I trust you, that's why I asked you to be a shomer for me. I don't trust your third party. I'm not happy that you gave it over to me. Or the Gemara had a different svara of at mehemnes li b'shvua. Who loy mehemnes li b'shvua? We know that if something happens to the animal that the shomer would not be responsible for, in order for the shomer to avoid payment, the shomer has to make a series of shvuos to the owner. He has to say it wasn't pesheya. He has to say he didn't steal it himself. He has to say he doesn't know where it is. I trust you to make that shvua. This third guy who you gave it to, I don't know if he's going to lie to me, so I wouldn't want him to be my shomer. So that's what Rava holds. Rava shomer shemashal shomer is chayiv, but our Mishnah seems to be saying black and white that the shomer who gives it over to a roya is pater. Amalach Rava, normally, if Shomer A gives it to Shomer B, and they're totally unrelated, there the owner can object. But he didn't give it over to anybody. My Masra Leroya Libarzile, he gave it to his apprentice. When you give something to a Shomer to watch, you give an animal to a Shomer. So obviously the Shomer has a Roya company, and he does third-party Roya. He does third-party shepherding. He's not all there by himself. He has employees that work for him. He has helpers that work with him. When you give it over to a roya, you're automatically agreeing that you accept that all of his employees also you trust to watch your animal. And that was the case over here. Because Masr l'roya lebarzilai, the urche the roya lemimser lebarzilai. It's normal for a roya to give over the animals to the watch of his apprentices, and that's to be expected. And that's why our Mishnah says he's the shomer comes b'makom, and the shomer, the barzilai, is now fully responsible, and the original shomer is not responsible at all because the Bailam can't protest that he gave it over to his own apprentice because that is acceptable. It's a known thing and everybody understands that. Ikadamri, there are those who say even more meduyak. We're not just using this to get out of a difficulty. We're going to bring a raya from here that's the only time you'd be able to do a shomer shemashal shomer. The Mishnah uses a funny lashon, masra l'raya. Why didn't it just say a generic term? Like a tani masra la'acher, he gave it over to somebody else. You see from there that if you gave it over to anybody else, it would be chayiv because we say shomer shemashal shomer is chayiv. So that's why the Mishnah specifically used this lashon roya because that's someone who there's the assumption that the owner would allow that to happen. Shmami no, my masra leroya must be masra roya lebarzile to urche de roya lemimsa lebarzile. Aval la'acher loy. So now you have a riot from the Mishnah that a shomer shemasra shomer would be chayiv. So instead of starting off by asking this is shver and rava, now we should have a riot from here to rava shver and abayit. Lema misayeh le rava. Dama rava shomer shemasra shomer chayiv. But tomorrow you don't have a riot either. Amri Dilma urche de milsa ketani. Really, the Mishnah could have said he gave it to anybody, and anybody that he would have given it to would make the original shomer potter because he's allowed to give it over. Why did the Mishnah happen in the case of that he gave it over to a roya? Because that is the urcha de milsa. Who is a shepherd going to give his animals over to watch? Probably someone who he trained, somebody who works for him, but lav dafka that's the only time he would be potter. No matter who he would give it to, he would be potter. Because maybe the Mishnah could hold shomer shemoshel shomer is going to be potter. That's the word weiter. Itmar. This is a geschmacke Polish Gemara. This is such a Polish Gemara. It's mamash geschmack. Every penny counts. Itmar. Shomer Avodah. I'm sorry.
Galician, nicht Polish.
Okay, I'm sorry, Galician. What was the story here? The halacha is that if you find an Aveda, you're mechuyev to take it in and watch it. So if you're a shomer Aveda, what level of shmir do you have? Rabba Amar Kishomer Chinam. No, he's like a shomer Chinam, meaning he'll be chayiv and a pshia, but potter on Geneva Aveda. He's an unpaid shomer. Rabbi Yosy Amar Kishomer Sachadami. He's considered like a paid shomer, and he's chayiv on Geneva Aveda. He's only potter for Eintin, let's say, list of Mizuyin. If armed robbers come there, he'll be potter. Zok Gemara, Rabba Amar Kishomer Chinam. It's very obvious. What benefit that he has? He's taka shomer chinam. He has a chiv to watch his animal or watch his aveda, and he's getting nothing for it. But to be because he gets something for it. Let's say a meshulach comes, knocks on his door while he's busy with this aveda. He could say, "I'm busy," right? It's like the yid who's in the middle of Krias Shma, and the Meshulach comes up to him, and he looks at the Meshulach, and he goes, "No, how dare you come over to me for money? Can't you see I'm in the middle of saying Krias Shma?" So the Meshulach tells the guy, "You know where you hop that trick to make believe like you're in the middle of Krias Shma? I taught it to you. You can't use the method that I taught you against me." So here's the same thing. I'm busy with the Aveda, therefore I'm potter because I oisek b'mitzvah, potter min mitzvah. And Tosha speaks out. It doesn't mean that once the Aveda is safely on the shelf in your house, waiting for someone to come collect it, that you're a shomer sachar, because that's not the benefit. Because any person who's wearing tefillin, or any person who's doing any mitzvah that he doesn't have to be oisik in, it's just on him the whole time wearing tzitzis, should be part of him doing any other mitzvahs. That's not the suggestion. The suggestion is that while I'm actually doing something with it, as I'm picking up the Aveda, as I'm putting it away, those moments while I'm doing it, that's where I would have a benefit. And therefore, I'm a shomer sachar. So Zok to Gemara, there are those who are mefarish. The reason why it's a shomer sachar is not because of the penny that you save. If an ani happens to come while you're busy doing something with it. Rather, Rabbi Yosy Amar Kishomer Sachadami, even the Rachmana Sha'abde Bal Korche, the Torah contracted you. The Torah mandated that you watch this Aveda. That mandate from the Torah makes it into a Shem Sacher. Hilchach Kashem Sacher Dami. In other words, you're not getting paid. You're not getting paid. But the Torah, when the Torah says you must watch this, the Torah is giving you instructions that you have to take responsibility like a Shem Sacher. Okay, let's stop here. Tomorrow, Mishem, we're going to litigate this shaila of whether or not a Shomer Avedus Kashomer Chinam or Kashomer Sacher.
That's the mouth of the verse.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yosy, go take a nap.
I will. Davening is 8:15, so I can still have a little bit of a shlof. Thank you so much. Have a very, very good day. Amen. Thank you so much. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm still feverish. I can't.